Dean Daly, distinguished faculty, and congratulations, Prentice, on your Mary Pickford Award. This is an incredible honor to be here. Excuse me as I put this down. To all the parents and friends, I say welcome. And to the class of 2022, I say, oh my God. Somehow, through the hard work, commitment, and perseverance, you not only got into the best, most storied film school in the world, but despite a worldwide pandemic, you did it. You fought your way through it all the way here, and today, you are graduates of the USC School of Cinematic Arts. Congratulations. Now, I have to say that I myself wanted to go to this school since I was a kid. Ever since I was really inspired by, actually, Martin Scorsese. I was inspired by the new American cinema of the late 60s and early 70s, the filmmakers of the first so-called film school generation, people like Marty, Francis Ford Coppola, and George Lucas, who proved that there was a path out of film school to big screen filmmaking. I'll never forget when I first arrived here and I saw the school's unofficial motto carved into the cement of the bridge of the old campus. Reality ends here. This was a place where dreams were born, where the powerful tools of storytelling would be revealed to us. Reality ends here. It's a powerful idea. But now you're done. You've done that. It's time for a new chapter. So today, reality begins here. And I know the question on your minds right now, all of you and all of the parents, must be, oh my God, how do I have a career in this business? Especially today when things seem so uncertain, Netflix and the other streamers have changed the landscape of our industry so quickly, and there's suddenly uncertainty there too. Fewer and fewer types of movies are made for the big screen. What is the viable financial model is being said? What is the film business even going to look like in the future? So many questions. But let's not get ahead of ourselves because reality begins here. And if you want a career in this business, the first thing you're going to have to do is break in. So how do you do that? There is no one path. But I can tell you that for me, when I was sitting right where you are right now, the key for me was finding a story. Find a story that you have to tell. Your story. And by yours, I don't mean that it has to literally be your life story, but it has to reflect your point of view. Your voice. And once you find that story, don't take no for an answer. For me, I told myself that I would come up with a story that I had to tell, and if no one would make it, I would go out and make it myself in 16 millimeter, just like John Cassavetes. Today, it's even easier if it comes to it. You can make a movie on your phone, you can edit it on your laptop like Sean Baker did with Tangerine, and nothing will stop you. In my case, the script I wrote with a friend got into the Sundance Writers Workshop, and it eventually got the attention of a few studios. It was a low-budget film, and like a crazy person, I told them I would only sell it if I could direct. And miraculously, insanely, they said yes. I thought to myself, oh my God, I did it, I just broke in, and maybe now I was on the same path as my heroes, the first film school generation. What no one except for my closest friends and my co-writer knew was that some parts of the story were embarrassingly personal. The script was about a Gen Xer, which I am, and he was approaching 30, which I was, and still living at home with his mother, which I was. I thought, oh dear God, if anyone at the studio finds out that the director of this movie is living with his mom, this will be over. I remember a few short months later driving to the set on the first day and you may feel this way, I felt like a total fraud. I thought, oh my God, what am I doing? We did our first rehearsal. It was at a house in Brooklyn. The movie took place in New York. And there was the prop master. His name is Joe Bottalucco. Joe was a classic New Yorker. He literally was later cast on multiple episodes of The Sopranos. And he watched as I led our actors to their first rehearsal. And afterwards, not knowing how it was done, I said, so Joe, I hope you saw where the stuff was at the beginning, and then can you put it back there? And then he looked at me and he said, hey, it's not my first day. So I thought, oh, this is great. I already have the crew turning against me. I was really scared. But it turned out that Joe was a super nice guy. And he came up to me later and he goes, hey, Matt, earlier, when I said, it's not my first day, I didn't know it was yours. We actually became really good friends. He came up to me and said, hey, don't eat off the truck. And I thought, oh, does that mean the food is not good on the truck? And it just turned out, no. They had a special deal. They were going to get food from L&B Pizza, which is in Brooklyn. I don't know if anybody knows it, but it's fantastic. He gave me chicken parm, L&B Pizza every day, and I gained 50 pounds on that movie. Somehow, feeling like there was no way I could do this, I got through the experience, and despite all the uncertainty, I finished that movie. And miraculously, it got into the Cannes Film Festival. Jules Jacob had chosen it for Un Certain Regard. We showed it in the Grand Palais. It got a standing ovation. We sold the movie to every territory in the world. I was like, oh my God, I did it. I'm on the same path. Martin Scorsese, Coppola, they came here. And then the movie came out in the US shortly later, and it was a total bomb. We lost all of the deals, and the movie was not released in most of the world. So it's kind of like what they say about rock bands, right? You record your first album. You're 25. I was 29. And everybody says, oh, well, so that took 3 months to do. It didn't take you 3 months to do. It took you your entire life to that point. This was a movie that took me 29 years to make, and it had failed spectacularly. So I thought, my gosh, what am I going to do? What do you do when you break in, when you get everything you want, and it does not work out? There was a big brick wall on my path. How would I get back up? How would I have a career? Could I have a career? So I was friends with J.J. Abrams. He and I, we made movies together when we were kids. We made 8mm movies. We met in an 8mm film festival. And he and I were talking about making another movie. And we started talking about this story about a young woman going to her first experience, independence at college. And as we talked more and more about it, it became Felicity. And as we were talking about it, we realized it wasn't a movie. We said, oh, this is a TV show. And I thought to myself, now TV was not what it is today. This was a show that was going to be on the WB. Now you may know the WB does not exist anymore. But the show was incredibly meaningful to us. And I thought, well, gosh, I think this is the path I have to take. So I took a turn. And I worked with an incredible cast with Kerry Russell and the other actors. I worked till 4 a.m., 7 days a week. It was like film school all over again. It was like making movies the way you guys do. But when that show ended, I thought to myself, that was an amazing experience. I have learned so much. I now need to get back on the path. I'm going to get back onto that path of those film school generation people. I'm going to go back on the path and make a movie. So I wrote another film. I wrote a film called Invisible Woman. I had written it for Naomi Watts, and amazingly, somebody knew Naomi Watts. They got it to her. She read it. She said, yes. And I was like, okay, thank God I'm back on the path. This is going to work. And so I was ready for pre-production. It was going to begin the following week. I got a call on a Friday. It was Naomi Watts calling on my cell phone. I was like, that's pretty cool. And I was like, hey, how you doing? How's it going? She goes, Matt, I have some bad news. And I was like, what? She said, do you know who Michael Haneke is? And I was like, yeah, no, I do. He did Funny Games, right? She goes, yeah. Well, he wants to remake the film in English. He wants me as the star. He's one of my heroes. I can't do your movie. And like that, there was another brick wall. So I thought, what am I going to do? And JJ turned to me and he said, hey, I know what you're going to do. You're going to direct Cloverfield. And I was like, wait. The giant monster movie that you're working on, the movie with the handycam movie? And he said, yeah. I said, oh my God, it's like a genre movie. Am I a genre guy? Do I know anything about genre? And he goes, it doesn't matter that you don't know about genre because you care about character and you'll make it real. I know that this is the right thing for you. And I was like, okay, look, I just don't, can I read the script? And he said, no, there isn't one. And I was like, well, what do you want me to do? He said, why don't you talk to Drew Goddard, who's writing the outline? And I said, well, why don't I wait until you finish the script? I mean, he said, no, you can't do that. And I said, why? And he said, because we're making the movie in 12 weeks. And I was like, oh my God, do I do this? And so I met with Drew, and I discovered something that has been really important for me in my career. As we started talking about story, I thought, okay, it's a giant monster movie, it's all other things, but I started thinking, as you guys have learned, about story. And for me, the movie became very much about my anxiety, and I suddenly realized that while I'd always loved genre movies, that I could actually tell a story that I cared about that was also a giant, crazy monster movie handycam film. And so I did that, and it was an amazing experience. I remember being on the set. I got sick so many times, and you guys will see, when you go out there, it's stressful being a director. And there was a guy who came up to me, and I was so sick, they sent a doctor, and he said, we're going to give you this drug because you keep getting sick. It's called Provigil. And I was like, Provigil, I don't think I know that. He said, it's a drug that we give to bomber pilots in Iraq on all-night bombing runs. It'll keep you awake. And I was like, whoa, okay. And I looked at it, and I read the precautions, and it said, may give you a false sense of well-being. And I thought, oh my God, that will be the end of my career. But, hey, it looks great. And it isn't. My DP did take it. I said, how's it going? He goes, I don't feel it. So I don't know. But anyway, I didn't take that. But anyway, that movie came out and something amazing happened. It actually worked. It was a big hit. And so I thought, okay, this has got to get me some capital. And so I used that capital to go back to the Cannes Film Festival and try and raise money for Invisible Woman. Only this time, I decided I would cast Kerry Russell, who when I wrote the script was too young. By this time, she was the right age. And I thought, for sure, we'll be able to set this up. We just had a hit. This is going to work. And then, just like today, there was a cataclysmic change in the industry, and all of these independent film companies went out of business. Vantage, Picture House, and suddenly I couldn't get that movie made. And so I was approached about doing a film that was a remake of a movie that hadn't been released yet. It was a Swedish vampire film called Let the Right One In. I watched the movie and I was like, this is incredible. And my first thought was, I can't remake this movie. It's too good. But after what happened with me in Cannes, I thought, okay, it's also the story that I relate to the most. So I read the book, which was written by John Lindquist. He also wrote the screenplay. And it turned out that he grew up in Sweden at the same time that I was growing up in LA. And he had a similar childhood that I did. He was bullied. So I thought, well, what if I call him? I think I could take this story, his story, but make it transplanted and make an American tale. And when I did, I called him and he said, here's the thing. I love Cloverfield. Make the movie. And I was like, wow. And so I did. And this became a new path for me. Suddenly I was a genre filmmaker. And it happened to me again. I was approached by about doing Planet of the Apes, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. When they came to me, my son was just learning how to speak. He was about 2 years old, and his words came with such urgency. And I looked at him and I thought, my God, you're a little animal. And there was something about the idea of exploring our animal nature that was really thrilling to me. And I thought, if they let me tell this story the way that I want to, which they probably won't, then this could be really cool. And when I went to them, they said, yes, we will let you do that. And I made that movie. And then the same thing happened again on war. On war, my father was dying when that film was made. And as Caesar was dying, my father was very near death. The film was very personal to me. It was about fathers and sons. It was about not only my relationship with my son, but with my father. And so I discovered that you could actually take stories that were fantastical and do really personal things with them. I had no clue about this when I began. And that, of course, brings us to Batman. And I think, okay, so you may not have noticed, but I don't seem like the bravest toughest guy in the world. I have loved Batman since I was a kid. I really loved the myth of that story. But that certainly wasn't me, but there was something about it that I totally related to, was this idea of having gone through difficulties and going out night after night and doing this crazy, crazy thing of playing out something that's related to your past to try and find meaning in your life. And that's what filmmaking is for me. And I think it's probably what filmmaking will be and is, if it's not already for you, which is that it's the place where you can come to understand who you are and how you fit in this world. So all of that brings me back to an experience that I had when I was in film school. And the thing about it is that experience wasn't at USC. It was at UCLA. Shh. We have a UCLA grad. This is fantastic. My friend was going to UCLA, and he said, listen, I got some news for you. He was gloating. He said, I'm taking a class by a guy named Peter Guber, who was the head of Sony Pictures. I said, whoa, that sounds interesting. He said, yeah, the class is called Power. I said, that sounds scary. And he said, our first guest is going to be Francis Ford Coppola. And I was like, oh my God, I gotta come, I'll come. He said, you can't come, it's a really popular class. And they all made us have passes. And I said, give me your pass. My friend kept everything in his life, kind of crumply. And he gave me his pass, and it was so crumpled that I was like, if I Xerox this, they'll be able to see I've just Xeroxed this piece of crumpled paper. And so I took that paper, and I Xeroxed it, and then I folded it for about an hour over and over again until it looked like I had kept that sheet as crappily as he had. And I went that night to go see Francis Coppola. I held it out, and I thought, this better work. I got in, and there was Peter Guber, and he said, this is going to be an interesting class. We're going to talk about power. You know who wasn't there? Francis Ford Coppola. So I was like, well, I better come to the second class. Now, the second class was really cool. It was the head of Sony Pictures Japan. That was interesting. It wasn't Francis Ford Coppola, one of my heroes, but I thought I'll go again. Penny Marshall, super cool. Where's Francis Coppola? So I went to that club. By the way, I'm sure if you are from UCLA, you probably could tell them that I owe them money. I went the entire year. And on that last day, I walked into the classroom, and he always had the guests sitting off to the side. There was no one sitting. I thought, my God, I gave up a whole year stealing this class, and there's no Francis Coppola, who's my hero. But he then said, you know, we have a very special guest tonight, and guess who came out? Francis Ford Coppola. And for me, like I said, the film school generation, this to me was like having a meeting with Socrates, and he spoke. But what he said to me that night shocked me, because he said, listen, he talked about all the films that were the reason that he was my hero. He talked about The Godfather Part 2. He talked about Apocalypse Now. And I was like, yeah, those are all masterpieces. And he said that none of them were the films that he imagined himself making. They weren't on the path that he set out to make in the first place. And I was like, what's he talking about? And he said that when he made The Godfather, he and the others at American Zoetrope were trying to make a viable studio. They'd made American Graffiti. They were trying to make these movies. And George Lucas said to him, we need money. You better take this movie. And he was like, I don't know a thing about gangster movies. I don't want to make a gangster movie. But he took that movie and he made it personal. I mean, his daughter is in the movie. His father did the music, and his sister's in it too. He made it very personal. And when they approached him about Godfather 2, he said, I don't want to do a sequel. And they said, well, you could do anything you want. And he said, well, the only thing that would be interesting to me is if I could follow the demise of the son as he kind of goes on his decline down as the rise of the father. And I have these two time periods, I cut them together. You'll never do that. And they said, no, we'll do that. And he did it. And it was a very personal film for him. And then Apocalypse Now, he said, listen, this is not my movie. That was a movie that George Lucas and John Milius came up with when they went to this school. And they said, we're going to go to Vietnam. We're going to make this movie during the war in 16 millimeter. And when it came time to prove that American Zoetrope really was a viable studio, Francis needed a project, and he didn't have one. So he said, well, I guess I could take that old project that you guys didn't make. I'll do Apocalypse Now. And he made one of the greatest movies in history. So what is the point of this? The point of this is that that night, I didn't understand a single thing that he was trying to say, but I understand it now because that's what's happened to me, that I took a similar detour from a path that I set out on. So you guys all may think you know where you're going, and you may get there exactly the way that you think you're going to, but that's generally not the way that life works. I set out never to be a so-called genre director, but for me, it has been an unexpected path to personal work in a career of popular entertainment, and I am so grateful. I will say, as far as our first question, how do you have a career in the film industry? I just want to tell you, you'll never totally figure it out. Each project has its own particular challenges and surprises that you'll never will have expected, just like life. But I can tell you that along the way, you will get more comfortable with that uncertainty of knowing that this is just how it is every time, that you'll always be asking the question, oh my God, can I actually do this? And then you'll go about finding whatever that path is to actually do it. So all of this brings me back to you guys. Here today, reality begins here, and the dreaded financial model crisis. Time and again, people in the film industry have said the sky is falling. The film business is dead, and people are saying it again right now. But I will now make a case that this is one of the best times for you guys to be graduating, and there's precedent. The first film school generation that inspired me, they came of age at a time exactly like this. The old studio system was dying, nobody knew it would work, the movie business was over, and then those former film students, just like you, took the world by storm with their passion, their stories, and they made some of the greatest films in history. In the end, the financial model doesn't matter because storytelling is a human need. We need stories to make sense of our world. Cinema at its best puts us in the shoes of characters who we are not, and it extends our sympathies and our understanding about them. Cinema illuminates what it means to be human, and cinema brings us together. Right now, that's what we desperately need. So the financial model will have to figure itself out. But here's the thing, none of it works without you. In fact, whatever it is or becomes, the financial model depends on you because it needs your stories. We need your unique voices. We need to see the world from your point of view. We need to learn from you, be entertained by you, and we need to be inspired by you. You've chosen a very challenging path, guys. At times it will be heartbreaking, but if you really want it, if you're willing to work hard, if you're able to be nimble and respond to the huge unknowable mountain ahead and take detours around anything that gets in the way of your path, then you can have a very surprising and fulfilling and wonderful creative life. And I hope you do. Reality begins here, guys. Congratulations and good luck.